saw Dr. Rakesh Kapoor was the only one who came in the mask. So special appreciation for Dr. Rakesh Kapoor. I mean, sir, you were actually, I don't know whether but that was one. The second question was what Dr. Bapna asked about PIK3 mutations, and I don't think we do PIK3 mutations in lung cancer at all. When we do an NGS, when the disease progresses, PIK3 mutation is something which will get covered. We also had some CDK4/6 inhibitors and stuff like that which came. I don't think in lung cancer there's any data of using Afinitor, Cyclib, or or other things which can help in these symptoms actually. The third question, okay, the third was actually a comment with the Novartis music being playing over there. I think they have actually told whatever I had to speak in the next 20 minutes. So I'll probably go fast. And the fourth is the Wi-Fi is still there, Dr. Aparna, so I'm not going to have any Wi-Fi jokes. So the topic that I have been given to speak is a new option if BRAF mutated non-small cell lung cancer. And first time I saw this topic, the first thing which comes to mind, I always put my first thing which comes to my mind, a new option in BRAF mutated non-small cell lung cancer. And the first thing that came to mind was, now you would be wondering, what is Sunny Deol and Damini doing over there? This was like, objection, my lord. Where was the earlier option? This is not a new option. This is the only option. The only option that we had before was actually nothing but chemotherapy, and that I don't think is an option. That is just something you actually went around with. So I have divided my talk into three parts. One, we will understand the role of BRAF in metastatic non-small cell lung cancer. Testing methods Dr. Aparna has already spoken about. And then we will review the clinical data about dabrafenib, trametinib in advanced non-small cell lung cancer. Now, introduction. I mean, why the hell are we even talking about 1% and 2% of lung cancer? बाकी सब हो गया क्या? So let's just look at this pathway, which is the most important in my DM. This was one pathway I thought, way back in 2005. This was one slide I thought, I will always use. So that, anywhere they ask me about the molecular pathway, I'll quote this slide. Little did I know that this is the only slide I'll be using in most. You all know about the PIK3 pathway and the AKT pathway for the breast cancer. Now let us look at the BRAF pathway. So if there is any mutation in the BRAF, it leads to an overactivity of the MEK and the MAPK, which causes invasion, metastasis, inhibition of antigen. So if you have any mutation occurs in the BRAF pathway, which occur in 50% of cases of melanoma, which occurs in 10% cases of colorectal lung cancer, colorectal cancer, which occur in thyroid cancer, which occur only in 2% of lung cancer. If you have any mutation over here, your downstream pathway basically gets affected, and that is where the invasion and metastasis and proliferation and basically start going. Now, very important is, again, they do not usually overlap with common mutations, but my gut feeling is that if you keep on doing NGS more and more, people who have got a BRAF as a resistance pathway, kind of people with. Now, very importantly, the standard answer is all these oncogene addictions are found in females, non-smokers, and young or elderly. But if you have to have a look at the BRAF and just look at this, they can actually have a history of smoking. So please do not exclude anyone who has got history of smoking doing any oncogene addiction. We have our data, and we have found out that 10% of people with smoking history, 22-year-old is the youngest patient of lung cancer I had, and 90-year-old is the eldest old population, oldest person that I had. Person of who can have smoking and can still actually have oncogene addictions. In BRAF, I would like to tell you that there is basically people can have a history of smoking. So please don't think that just because the person has got a smoking and is a male or a female, we will not do the testing done. It is very, very important to get this testing done. The important thing is BRAF now for the clinicians, you know, and I mean, I don't think there are any pathologist and your molecular biologist because, you know, you can just have a BRAF mutation written. But please ask them, boss, if it is a V600E, if it's a V600L, it's K, or in any other mutation. Because the mutations in BRAF can occur in many, many other strategies. But your drug over here will work only if you have a V600E. If you give a drug of dabrafenib and trametinib in a person who has got V600, any mutation other than V600E, that is a non-V600E, trust me, even Dr. Parekh and Dr. Advani and Dr. Bapna will not be able to save you from litigation, even if you apply for. So, BRAF mutations in this literature were found basically in 4.9% of adenocarcinoma, slightly higher. 56% of these BRAF mutations were V600E, but there were 43% of people who have got a non-V600E mutations also. It is very important for us to see whether a person has got a V600E or a non-V600E kind of mutation, because this particular drug is only approved for V600E kind of a mutation. So, as Michael Jackson says it before, V600E is not alone. You can actually have a lot of other mutations which are actually there. Now, why the hell is it important? We don't make a difference whether it's deletion 19 or LA, but yes, it makes a difference if you have exon 20. So, why should you mutation has a difference and also no mutation. So here is if you have a BRAF type and V600 mutation, yes, even the chemotherapy is worse. Not if you just do a PCR, it's not going to cost you more than 10 to 12,000 rupees. In the BRAF mutations, you have like I was asking Dr. Parekh today, you know, told me statistics about Maharashtra. I asked him, sir, tell me Mumbai versus not Mumbai. So in BRAF mutation, V600E mutation, actually doing that great. So very important. Please check for BRAF V600E mutations. V600E is an aggressive disease that does not respond that much better to chemotherapy. Non-V600E respond better to chemotherapy, but they do not respond to dabrafenib and trametinib, and that is why BRAF V600E mutation is an unmet need, and we need to find out about the V600E mutation. Whether we do an LGS or we do a PCR, Prakash is going to ask us in his panel discussion about that. So, again to summarize, BRAF mutation, in our experience, we just had 4 mutations till now. Detected on our NGS, it's around 1 to 2%. V600E is the one that you should look for. V600E is the one which does not respond to chemotherapy. A non-V600E will respond to chemotherapy, but non-V600E will not respond to dabrafenib and trametinib. So, now what are the treatment options which are available for BRAF positive non-small cell lung cancer, and what are the treatment options? So we should again, I am a big fan of history, you know, we should always remember, I was the one who actually gave vemurafenib in one of our very earlier patients who had got a BRAF mutation, non-small cell lung cancer. Now, vemurafenib actually has been tried, and if you look at this, the overall response rate was 43%, and the PFS was around 5.2 months. In another trial, there were 20 patients who were taken. The overall response rate was 42% in the basket trial, and the PFS was 7.3 months. Vemurafenib, please remember, does work, but the progression-free survival and the overall survival is actually lesser, because then the MEK pathway gets overactive, And if you don't give an MEK inhibitor, the responses are very, very short. I did try vemurafenib in a thyroid cancer which had a B600E. The guy responded beautifully in 2 months' time, but just after 2 months, the MEK pathway became active and the guy had a progressive disease. So, vemurafenib, EFS of 5.2, 7.3 actually over here. Very, very important. This is the slide which I have taken from the last year's WCLC. But BRAF, vemurafenib, dabrafenib, actually, which is a selective B600E inhibitor, works over here. And downstream, when you come, the trametinib actually works at the 1 and 2 level. So it's kind of a double trouble, a double whammy, which the cancer is being faced over here. And that is why probably the double trouble is actually better. So we spoke about vemurafenib. Remember, of 5.2 or 6.2, overall response rate of 44%. That's what I would like you to remember. This was a phase 2 study of dabrafenib and trametinib in only BRAF B600E. Look at this very, very carefully. It was not done in only in B600E mutant people. Now there were 3 cohorts. What they basically took was the cohort A got dabrafenib monotherapy. Cohort B got dabrafenib trametinib in the second line. Cohort C got dabrafenib trametinib in the first line. So 3 cohorts. First cohort got only dabrafenib. Second cohort got dabrafenib second line. Third cohort got dabrafenib trametinib in the first line. The primary endpoint was the overall response rate. The secondary endpoint was PFR. This was against chemotherapy. I'm sure Kumar is going to have a question in which they're going to say whether to give immunotherapy, whether to give chemotherapy. This has not been compared against chemotherapy actually. So this was the patient selection. Again, I would like to tell you over here, the cohort A, B, C and all were by and large similar. Most of the patients had adenocarcinoma histology, but very important to see over here were 2/3 of the patients were current or former smokers. So please do not exclude anybody just because they are smokers or men or at the extremes of the ages. You can have BRAF V600 mutation in any of them actually. This was for the cohort B. Again, the similar kind of a result. Again, 3/4 of patients were current or former smokers, and a lot of people had taken more than 2 previous lines of chemotherapy. Very, very important, which we have to see. So, again, cohort A, only dabrafenib. If you look at this, the overall response rate was 33%. The PFS was 5.5 months. Remember, vemurafenib, similarly, overall response rate was around 40%. PFS was 5.5. So, probably if you just block the BRAF inhibitor, you're going to get an overall response of 33% and a PFS of 5.5 months. But how comes the catch over here? That is why we are listening to this. If you use the cohort B, that is, if you have a second line treatment, the overall response rate jumps to around 66.7%. And that is a response rate. I'm not talking about the disease control rate. And your median PFS goes on to 10.9 months. And again, people who have got a median PFS and have a response are the ones who are responding better. Now look at the cohort C. The median PFS is again similar, 10.2 months, and the overall rate response rate is 64%. So whether you give it in line 2 or line 1, the median PFS is the same, the overall response rate is the same, and the rest of the nitty-gritties Kumar will handle in his moderation. So this is the efficacy summary. If you look at this over here, you have a disease control rate of 79%. You have a disease control rate of 75%. That's almost similar to what you have in the EGFR mutation subgroup with osimertinib. And that is how effective the testing strategies of BRAF should be. And if Novartis keeps the cost down, I'm definitely sure both the testing and the drug should have a great impact on the management of lung. Very important. For the BRAF mutation, this is what. So what happens if you give absolutely response rate of 0%, a PFS of 1.8. So please look at your report carefully, regardless of what Dr. Aparna comes and tells you. Ask her whether there's a V600E mutation or not. If there's a V600E mutation, go ahead. If there's a non-V600E mutation, please don't give cancer be completed without having the immunotherapy. So the general rule of the thumb is that if you have an oncogene addicted lung cancer, you do not the immunotherapy doesn't actually work over there. However, BRAF might just be an aberration in this, because if you look at this over here, in 43 patients who had got a BRAF mutation, this is all comers, there was a response rate of around 24%. And in the ASCO 18, they said it not in patients of BRAF mutation, not a and so maybe immunotherapy again also could be tried later. I am not saying it should be tried right now, it could be tried later. What about the safety data? Toxic, I am not also, I just given patients in now. The most important, if you look over here, nearly all the patients experienced a grade 1 AD. Had a grade 3 by 4 AD. But what is important is there was a low discontinuation rate due to AEs, only 14% of people. And again, pyrexia was the most common AE that was actually noticed. I only had grade 3 pyrexia actually. However, there were other things like anemia, confusional state, hemophilia. This is not a run-of-the-mill TKI where you're going to give rashes and diarrhea. You need to talk to the person very, very carefully. Similarly, over here actually, how do you treat this pyrexia? So, dabrafenib, you give trametinib at the same dose. Step 2, you initiate antipyretics. Third is you consider corticosteroids. So, you stop dabrafenib, you continue with trametinib. Most likely it is because of dabrafenib which is there. So, if it's the first event, you interrupt dabrafenib. You once the fever will the same dose. If it is second event, you can add steroids. But if it is a subsequent event, you have to get down to one dose lesser, which I am going to tell you over here. The starting dose for dabrafenib is 150 mg, that is 75 into 2 tablets twice daily. Trametinib is 2 mg once daily. Both of them should be taken with food 1 hour before or 2 hours, and the same dose it has to be taken. First dose reduction 100 mg, second dose reduction 75 mg, third dose reduction 50 mg. Subsequently, you have to stop if patient is not able to tolerate dabrafenib. So this was my one patient that I gave dabrafenib trametinib. This was at the baseline. This was after 2 months, and this was a fantastic doctor's mother, doctor's wife, and a doctor's doctors and son and one doctor husband. And this is the way she has been responding. Fantastic response. This was almost a similar kind of graph that we were showing when the EGFR and ALK story came. The lady is absolutely fantastic, right? So this is my last slide. Where are we in 2019? I could not copy a new slide because 2020 no conferences are happening right now. So either you give dabrafenib and trametinib in the first line, then you go ahead and give a platinum-based chemotherapy followed by immunotherapy, or you go ahead and give them chemotherapy, dabrafenib and trametinib in the second line, and then go ahead with immunotherapy. But irrespective, is risk and please test for sensitivity mutation and the TKIs if you get a patient hospital. Thank you, and I have a talk. Thank you. Thank you very much. But I have a last minute request for you. So, Kumar has just connection. So, could you moderate the panel? Sure, sir. No issue. Yeah, I'll tell you. Vikas Talreja, Amit Sherawat, Singh, and Tejinder Singh. Four of them are logged in. Roshni is trying to log in, but she has some audio issues. We are trying to resolve it. So please, WhatsApp me the name. I'll WhatsApp you right now. Amit Sherawat, Pritanjali Singh, and Tejinder Singh. Fantastic. So Tejinder and Vikas are there. Okay. Yes. I know Patanjali Singh. Fantastic. Okay. So guys, you have presented it. You have to answer both of the questions, right? Okay. Going on asking question that Dr. Kumar is going to ask. So Kumar, this is the first time I'm filling up for him at 5 second notice. So that's okay. step into Kumar's shoes also is a big thing, you know. So I mean, I would be absolute. It's an absolute honor for me actually. Okay. So Tejinder, do you regularly test for the BRAF mutation, and what has your experience been? So no, honestly speaking, I have not been regularly doing the BRAF mutation. Only thing happens is that since some of the patients who insist on doing NGS, sometimes I had only one patient who came out with BRAF mutation positive because of NGS testing, nothing else. And honestly, he never had the money and resources, so he could not take that. But I'm not regularly checking it. NGS, if suppose we do regularly, suppose some of the patients are coded, and even there, one patient was out of 15 patients, and 15 to 20, one has come out. And you have not really given. Yes, sir. Another one second notice, Kumar has just been able to log in. Fantastic, sir. Thank you. So I'll log off now. No, wait. Let's see Kumar come on the picture at least. Continue, Ullas. I'll be part of the panel. Nice, sir. You are the moderator now. They're getting bored of me. Continue to be part of the panel. No, you go ahead, sir. You go ahead. Sir, can you repeat the name of the panelists, sir? Yeah. Mulreja, Tejinder Singh, Amit Sherawat, Anjali Singh. These four are already logged in, and Roshni is trying to join, but there is some audio issue with her. I'll put them in. Already have, sir. Okay. Kumar is. Thank you. We can include Ullas also, no? Yeah, sure. Yeah, of course. Ullas will be part of it. And Ullas, I know you keep troubling each other, and I trouble you more. I mean, I know that you always been kind to me. So we'll continue. If I can come anywhere near, you know, near your shoes, not stepping into your shoes, near your shoes, that is also enough for me.